Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined today by Derek Brown and Andrew Erickson. Fellas, we are talking about some Week 3 must-start players. We're going to hit every position. We will start at the very top with the must-start running backs here going into Week 3. And DBro, we will start with you.
Well, first guy I'm going to bring up here, and people might be surprised for me to say his name, is Javonte Williams. I get that the volume has been capped, but this is a ceiling opportunity for Javonte. He's been really efficient with the work he's been given. He's top 20 in yards to contact per attempt and missed tackles forced per attempt. But the Miami Dolphins cannot stop the run. They have the lowest stuff rate in the NFL, and they have allowed the 7th highest rate of 5+ or more yard runs. So Javonte, I think, is going to have himself a day, as well as they struggled versus receiving backs last year. So start Javonte, fire him up as an RB2, feel really good about it. Next guy to bring up here, and I know he failed people last week. Go back to the well. We told you not to play him last week. Play him this week, and that's Joshua Kelley. I think Austin Eckler is going to be out. The Minnesota run defense is bad with a capital B. Second lowest stuff rate in the NFL. They have allowed the 4th highest yards per carry on zone runs. Why does it matter again? Joshua Kelley, 44% of his runs or on-zone concept so far this season. He has 4.7 yards per carry on those runs. He's going to have himself a day. And the last guy, been singing his praises the entire offseason. Now people are seeing why. Jaylen Warren, baby. Jaylen Warren needs to be a start. Throw him into your flex. Not telling you to start him as an RB2, but you need to start him. Because this guy has been crushing it. Multiple broken tackle metrics. He's near the top end. As well as You take a sample of 24 running backs right now. He's 8th in receiving grade. He's 2nd in yards per route run behind only Josh Jacobs. And you marry this with who they're playing this week. The Las Vegas Raiders last year, most receiving yards allowed to running backs. 4th highest yards per reception and the 4th most receptions to running backs. So you thought Jaylen Warren had a really good game last week in the passing game? Wait till you see this one.
Yeah, Erickson, you're roughly in line with DBro on both Javonte and Joshua Kelley, but you are much lower on Jaylen Warren. You're, I believe, 13 spots lower in the current rankings, from where DBro is. DBro's got him at a borderline RB2, and you've got him as an RB4. So what are you not seeing that DBro is?
I just don't know who they're going to give the ball to. Like, do you have him ranked over Najee this week?
I've got him and Najee like back-to-back, RB25 and RB26. I think they're going to split the work and both can have a good day.
Okay, so I guess that's my concern. It's like, look, Najee's obviously had a horrible run out, but he's still their first round pick. And I mean, they've had like the worst matchups possible. So I know Jaylen Warren's obviously looked better, and he has looked better even dating back to last year, but Najee really hasn't had a chance to do anything. So I think that if he gets going a little bit against the Raiders, I think that he could have a productive game, and I think that just caps Jaylen Warren's ceiling. I think I view Warren probably more as like a flex play. I know I'm going to probably have to start him in a bunch of leagues because I obviously lost Nick Chubb in a bunch of my leagues, but have Warren on my bench.
Yeah, you guys know I'm reticent to obviously praise Pittsburgh in anything, but I will. It is fair to point out I think that they've faced two very, very good defenses to start the year.
Two worst defenses you could possibly.
Yeah, so like I try and give I was not a Najee Harris investor this offseason, but I still try and give a little bit of leeway just given who the opponents have been. Let's get into some Who Should I Starts. This is using our Who Should I Start tool, which is free to use for everybody at fantasypros.com/start. Just a player comparison tool. All these guys that we discussed, we're going to kind of reference some one-on-one player comps. We're going to draw those numbers from the Who Should I Start tool. Again, that's free to use at fantasypros.com/start. So, DBro, who are you starting this week? Javonte Williams or Breece Hall?
Oh, Javonte. That's not even close.
It's actually, the vote goes towards Breece Hall in the tool. They're back-to-back in ECR, pretty significantly.
Are people aware that Zach Wilson's playing quarterback?
I think everybody, unfortunately, is aware of that at this point. How about Joshua Kelley or James Conner? This one's really close.
I'm going to go Kelley. I just don't know. I'll lean on the volume for Conner, but I don't even know if Arizona moves the ball this week.
The vote goes towards Conner, but literally if one expert had it the other way, it would go towards Kelley. That's how close that one is. And then Jaylen Warren or Gus Edwards this week?
Oh, geez. It's Jaylen Warren. Gus Edwards has a terrible matchup. Indy might not be a great team. they are top shelf at stopping the run.
I see. I disagree with you there, just because I think Gus is going to get
really?
so much.
Really?
I just think he's going to get all the workload.
What team does Gus Edwards play for, Worm? I wonder why you disagree.
If Justice Hill was playing, I would be more inclined to agree with you. But the fact that he's not, who's going to take carries from Gus? They also love to run in the red zone. Melvin Gordon is not going to take carries from Gus.
Answer. Lamar Jackson will take carries.
Kenyon Drake. Well, they're not running as much this year with Lamar Jackson. Kenyon Drake and Melvin Gordon stink. I mean, this is going to be Gus's backfield.
Kenyon Drake stunk last year, and he played plenty.
I will be shocked if Gus. Well, that was Gus was coming back from the ACL last year too. Now he's a year removed.
They have this weird infatuation with Kenyon Drake that is unhealthy.
We're going off on really Ravens apologist to a detour here.
I will be really surprised if Gus doesn't get a touchdown this week. Is all I'm saying. And
I'll be really surprised if Gus gets over 40 yards rushing. I'll say
the
that.
experts agree. Gus is getting about 3/4 of the vote for him against Jaylen Warren. Erickson, give me your 3 must-start running backs this week.
All right. Alexander Mattison, because if you have him on your roster, which you shouldn't because we told you not to draft him, but if you do and you made a mistake, you got to start him. This is do or die time. Just Rashad White last week was do or die. He's playing the Chargers in a game with a 54.5 point total. This game's going to be a lot of scoring. Alexander Mattison has 1 touchdown this year. He caught a receiving touchdown in week 1. So if there's a chance where he's going to have the most amount of touches away from Cam Akers, it would be in this week where they just added Cam Akers or traded for him later in the week. So for me, this is Madison's last chance to hold on to the job, and you got to start him.
I'm howling on the inside right now.
At least through 2 weeks, they really haven't shown they're going to give the ball to Ty Chandler any more than Mattison. Madison's had a 70% plus snap share back-to-back weeks. He's still the guy for now until he loses the job to Cam Akers, but this is the matchup you want to start him in against the Chargers defense. I think it's a good spot for him. And the offensive line should be a little bit healthier than it was against the Eagles on Thursday night. Next guy here is Kyren Williams. Speaking of Cam Akers, Kyren Williams, the new RB1 for the Los Angeles Rams. Another one of Sean McVay's favorites. He played 95% of the snaps in week 2. He is second in red zone carries behind only Tony Pollard in the NFL. They're going to put up points or at least get into the red zone against the Bengals. I think we're going to see the Bengals have been horrible against the run this year. They've allowed the second most rushing yards per game. And Kyren Williams got it done last week against the 49ers. One of the best run defenses in the NFL. Again, a lot of it's touchdowns. And I talked about it earlier with Matthew Stafford, where Stafford's due for some positive touchdown regression. It's not always going to be Kyren Williams scoring all these touchdowns in the red zone. But until that ends up happening, you got to stay in the flames with Kyren Williams. I think that he's a RB1 this week. So if you picked him up, you're pretty much starting him over a lot of different guys on your roster. Any running backs that have you drafted in an RB2 range, I'm starting Kyren Williams over all of them because you got to stay in the flames with the Rams running back who's leading the team in snaps and carries. And lastly, my guy here is Isiah Pacheco for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Pacheco's usage has kind of been up and down the last couple weeks, but I did like what he saw last week. 12 carries for 70 yards. He's super efficient, runs like a maniac, and again, Bears defense. Bears defense is so bad against everything. And honestly, when I look at the Chiefs offense and who actually offers a lot of juice, I would say Pacheco is one of the most explosive players they have. All the receivers are just kind of middling guys. No one's stepping up. They're just rotating all the receivers. You can't trust any of them. But the running back that I think you can trust is Isiah Pacheco. Now, he didn't have ideal receiving usage last week. He only had 2 targets. But the other Kansas City running backs combined for 2 carries. Pacheco's snap rate increased. It was at 51%. And his route participation was actually higher than it was in week 1. So all kind of low-key metrics that are pointing upwards for Pacheco to have a massive game against a horrible defense. Pacheco was super explosive. He had 70 rushing yards last week on just 12 carries. I think Pacheco goes over 100 rushing yards and scores this week against the Bears.
So, Erickson, my first, who should I start that I was going to ask you, I didn't realize that you had one of these guys way lower than anybody else on the staff at Fantasy Pros. So, Alexander Mattison or Brian Robinson?
I'm going to go with Alexander Mattison.
Yeah, so I want to get your opinion on that, DBro, too, because Erickson has Brian Robinson 27th at running back, whereas DBro, Joey P, and Pat Fitzmaurice all have him in the teens. So, DBro, why are you a lot higher on Robinson? And would you take Robinson over Mattison if you had to pick between the two?
I'll take Robinson over Mattison only for the volume. I think he's pretty much a lock for 18 to 20 plus touches. He could get 25 touches in this game, and that won't surprise me at all. So, really, for once you get past like RB 10, 11-ish, it just turns into a crapshoot. You're, okay, what's matchups look like? What's volume look like? And I'm just leaning on the volume for Brian Robinson.
Next, who should I start here, Erickson? Kyren Williams or James Cook? You said you would take Williams over all those guys you might have drafted as an RB2, but is James Cook in that list too?
If it was full PPR, I would probably go towards Cook. But in half PPR, that's the standard scoring that we're talking about. I'm going it to Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams has touchdown upside that James Cook doesn't have. Like, that's James Cook's Achilles heel, unfortunately. Is a super explosive and like as better of a running back that James Cook is compared to Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams is getting those red zone goal line touches that just make it so much easier for him to outscore James Cook, who unfortunately they're just not giving the ball to in the red zone.
That one's another coin flip where essentially one expert going a different direction could have flipped it. Technically, Cook has the lead there, but really a 50-50. And then Isiah Pacheco or DeAndre Swift?
Oh my God, Pacheco. Easy. DeAndre Swift managers are in for a rude awakening here in week 3. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, he looked so good in that Thursday night game.
Unbelievable. Almost like it's not going to ever happen ever again. Yeah.
DBro, you're a little higher on Swift than Erickson. Would you take Swift ahead of Pacheco this week?
I'll take Swift only because the Pacheco hamstring issues kind of worry me a little bit. Like, they eased him in week 1, week 2. I'm worried they don't give him full run with the hammy popping up.
Guys, we are back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw 5 down on any of this week's epic matchups and walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Football is more fun when you're in on the action, so download the app now and sign up with code FANTASYPROS. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code FANTASYPROS. The crown is yours. Guys, let's move to our must-start wide receivers. DBro, starting with you.
All right, well, it's Gabe Davis week, baby. Let's go. Washington Commanders cannot defend the deep ball. Gabe Davis is going to have himself a day. Washington Commanders versus deep passing this year. Highest yards per attempt allowed, 5th highest passer rating, and the 9th highest adjusted completion rate. So Josh Allen, go ahead, go deep, sir. Gabe Davis, let's go. Next guy I'm going to bring up here is Zay Flowers. These Indy cornerbacks are terrible. Dallas Flowers, over 100 passer rating. Darrell Baker Jr., 125.8 passer rating. Zay Flowers is going to eat up that zone coverage. Got to start him this week, as well as we didn't even brought up the fact that Odell Beckham Jr. is probably not going to play in this game. So more targets to Zay Flowers. Last guy I'm going to bring up here, and this is going to, I'm going to stack this later in this episode, but I'm going to bring him up here. Rashid Shaheed, baby. He has looked fantastic this year, and really the Achilles heel for the Green Bay Packers, again, going back to the deep passing. They have been bad versus deep passing, and it's not even just this year. It's the last 2 seasons. And the fact that they run a ton of zone coverage. The Packers, this year so far, their outside corners have played zone on 79 to 83% of their coverage snaps. Rashid Shaheed over the last 2 years, 3.73 yards per route run and 3.4. Those are magical numbers. Shaheed is going to have himself a day. He's going to catch 1 deep one for at least 1 touchdown. Let's go.
Yeah, Shaheed's been really good this year. You only included Zay Flowers because you wanted me to bring up smoking again like last week. I know that's what you did. Flowers, does it worry you at all with Zay that he did get a little bit less workload once Mark Andrews came back?
No, I mean, I was expecting that. Like, Mark Andrews is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, but I think, like, we're going to see more targets go back to Zay with no Odell, because Rashad Bateman, I'm not even going to say they're putting him in the doghouse. He's not even playing a full-time role. He's splitting snaps with Nelson Aguilar, and the only thing I can think of it is he's not fully healthy. Like, we know the talent's there, but
I think he's probably healthy. They just want to bring him along slowly, given the injuries he's had. I'm hoping it's a medical thing, though, regardless of whether or not he's actually injured right now on Bateman, because otherwise that has really confused me, too. Let's do some Who Should I Start here, DBro. Gabe Davis or Jahan Dotson this week?
Oh, Gabe Davis. Easy, Gabe.
Davis not winning that vote. It's going to Dotson there. DJ Moore or Zay Flowers?
I'm going to go Zay Flowers. I just saw the Kansas City Chiefs shut down Calvin Ridley. What are they going to do versus DJ Moore?
Yeah, I'm with you. Zay is only getting about a third of the vote there. I am with you, though. That should be Zay Flowers. And then Rashid Shaheed or Tutu Atwell?
Oh, Shaheed. And I'm not saying Tutu's going to have a bad day, but the Cincinnati corners are really good. Like Awuzie and Cam Taylor-Britt are extremely good. You do not attack those outside corners. That's not what you want to do.
Well, you must be the only expert in this tool who's voting for Shaheed, because he is just getting blown out the door by Tutu Atwell in this vote. 97% of experts currently in half PPR ratings are going with Tutu. So you are out on an island there. Erickson, give me your 3 must-start receivers.
All right, going with Chris Godwin. I know that Mike Evans has kind of overshadowed Chris Godwin a little bit here as the guy who's making all the plays for Tampa Bay, but in this particular matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, strengths are at the perimeter. They have really strong perimeter cornerbacks. Not good for Mike Evans, who eventually isn't going to catch a long touchdown. Like, it's going to happen. So for me, I'm targeting the middle of the Eagles defense with Chris Godwin, who runs a lot of his routes from the slot. The Eagles are allowing the second most passing yards per game, most completions when they face the Patriots and the Minnesota Vikings. So Chris Godwin has been solid so far this year. He has 5 catches for 50-plus yards and 7 targets per game through his first 2 contests, so he's been fine. Hasn't caught the touchdowns yet. I think we see him hit the end zone this week. Baker Mayfield missed him last week in the end zone. I think he's going to score, so I like Chris Godwin here in half PPR against the Eagles. Next up, Josh Reynolds for the Detroit Lions. Josh Reynolds quietly has just been balling out as the Lions wide receiver too. Look, he scored twice last week, and I don't think that we're going to see the Lions get away from him as a feature part of this offense. I love this game, playing in Coors Field, Ford Field, for the NFL, and I think the matchup against the Falcons is decent. So Josh Reynolds, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown banged up a little bit with this turf toe injury, I feel like we're going to just see Jared Goff lean on Josh Reynolds again, like as he's done throughout this year, as we saw him do when they played together in Los Angeles with the Rams. 20% target share. He leads the team in air yards through 2 weeks. So I like Josh Reynolds. If you scooped him up off the waiver wire, I think he's an easy plug-and-play guy that is hot right now. Like, he is a guy that's in the flames that I think you should just continue to ride out until something changes in the Detroit Lions offense that would suggest that they're going to get away from Josh Reynolds, which I don't think it's going to happen here in week 3. And last but not least, someone that is breaking out before our eyes, Nico Collins for the Houston Texans. You truly love to see it, people. Second in receiving EPA through 2 weeks. Last week, 7 catches for 146 yards, 9 targets, 25% target rate per route run this season. 5th in receiving yards. 5th in total air yards. Nico Collins is doing everything we've ever dreamed of and wanted of as one of the consensus breakout sleepers. So I'm in love with it. So I just think you keep playing him. The Jaguars are going to, the Texans are going to have to throw, try to keep pace against the Jaguars. So I love Nico Collins and would be happy to start him over a bunch of, even like over DeAndre Hopkins. Like, it seems weird to like, oh, I'm going to start Nico Collins over Hopkins. It's like, yes. Yes, you are, because he is playing well above a wide receiver 2 that you had drafted earlier in draft season. So Nico Collins, for me, I feel really good about.
Yeah, DBro, you're actually a little higher on Nico Collins than Erickson. You're lower on both Godwin and Reynolds, but you're really lower on Reynolds, like 20 or 30 slots lower. So why are you not coming around on Reynolds yet?
It's not the production for Reynolds. I think that game just tanks. I think that with Amon-Ra out, I think you're going to be missing David Montgomery. I think that's going to be a lower scoring matchup. I think I'd probably be betting the under in that game. And the other part about this, Falcons are terrible versus tight ends. I think it's just going to be a big Sammy Ball game one.
Do you really think that game's going to go under?
I do.
Dude, every game that's played in Detroit has gone the last 10 home games for the Lions. Average has been 54
Goff,
points.
What weapons does he have healthy? Amon-Ra, his wide receiver one's going to be out. David Montgomery's out. Are they going to use Jahmyr Gibbs? They're going to run Craig Reynolds.
The last time Goff played without Amon-Ra St. Brown, you know what game it was? Last year's game, Seattle versus Detroit, where there was almost 100 points scored. That Amon-Ra didn't play in that game. So that's fair. I think Goff can be fine without Amon-Ra, especially they have Gibbs. He's an explosive playmaker. You talked about Sammy Ball game. He's good.
Yeah, I think it's a Sam Laporta game.
What? They're going to hit the over.
To be fair, DBro, you think every game is a Sam Laporta game.
Because they are. He's tight end 6 right now. I mean, somebody stop the man. He's a top 10 tight end. I heard rookies can't produce.
All right, Erickson, let's do some Who Should I Start? Chris Godwin or George Pickens this week?
Chris Godwin for me. I think he's safer.
How about Josh Reynolds or Cortland Sutton?
Burying Cortland Sutton. I'm starting Josh Reynolds.
Okay, that's your version of Rashid Shaheed. Cortland Sutton is getting over 90% of the vote there compared to Josh Reynolds. They looked a little more explosive this last week.
Erickson's
I guess.
like never Sutton, not even if there's a fire.
Dude, he can't. He can't get targets when Judy plays, man. It just doesn't happen.
I don't think the disparity should be that much for the record. 93-7. And then Nico Collins or Michael Pittman this week.
Ooh, that one's close. Pittman has just been balling out. Well, actually, I have them back to back my rankings. So you've
where do you have Nico at? Because we talked about Nico a good bit. Like, I want to see who's higher on Nico.
I think Worm said you were.
Yeah, so DBro, you have Nico, at least in what I'm seeing here in our half
wide
PPR
receiver
rankings.
20, baby.
DBro's got him 20 and Erickson's got him 26.
Yeah, so I have Pittman 25. So I would probably start Pittman just because the Ravens secondary is still.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. If Marlon Humphrey was healthy and playing, I would probably go with Nico, but that secondary is banged up. I know the defense has played really well, even with all the secondary injuries, but a guy like Pittman is talented enough to take advantage of that, especially if Minshew ends up being the one playing. And
I also think that the Colts offensive line is better than the Texans offensive line. And the Ravens don't have a good pass rush, so I think that Minshew, Richardson, whoever is the quarterback, is just going to pepper Pittman. And I like the Colts offense in general, just like fast paced. It's good for Pittman, so Pittman for me.
We love Nico Collins, but yeah, I think that's a reasonable take to go with Pittman here. Say goodbye to your own start-sit dilemmas with FantasyPros Start-Sit Assistant. Within seconds, you'll know exactly who to play for optimal results each week. Leveraging insights from numerous experts, the Start-Sit Assistant aligns your lineup decisions with the top minds in fantasy football, giving you a competitive edge. Maximize your lineup's potential with just a few clicks. Head to fantasypros.com/myplaybook and make winning decisions in no time. We will wrap up as we always do here with our must-start quarterbacks, tight ends, and defenses. We group these all together. So, DBro, give me your QB, TE, and DST.
I mean, I talked about I'm going to stack them together. I'm going Derek Carr this week. I know it sounds crazy, but look, I talked about how bad Green Bay is versus deep passing. Derek Carr leads all quarterbacks in deep ball rate and deep pass attempts. That man is being aggressive. He's throwing down the field. He tried to do it last week versus the Panthers, and they said, Packers can't do that. So give me all the Derek Carr. Next guy I got to bring up here, and we talked about the no-fly zone in the previous episode, Hayden Hurst. You should have just known he wasn't going to do anything last week versus the Saints. But now, we're back in, baby. We're back in. They're playing the Seattle Seahawks, who basically have been a turnstile versus tight ends. This year, 4th most receiving yards, highest yards per reception to the position. Week 1, Hayden Hurst had an 18% target share. I don't care if Bryce Young doesn't play. Give me the red rifle. Give me Andy Dalton chucking at the ball to Hayden Hurst. And I'm going to sit here and bring up the defense, man. I talked about them, and the reason why I'm out on Tyler Algier and the Falcons rushing attack, it is because I want to play the Detroit Lions defense. They are a good run defense. They're going to make this Falcons offense one-dimensional. They can't run the ball. I'm sorry to say, but the Falcons are going to have to rely on the arm of Desmond Mitter this week. And we're just going to keep playing defenses versus Desmond Mitter. So give me the Detroit Lions.
So, DBro, the question I'm going to ask you, I know you have a very clear answer on this for this. Who should I start? It's Jake Ferguson or Hayden Hurst.
Oh, Hayden Hurst.
So I knew you had that, but the reason I wanted to bring up Hayden Hurst is because this is one of the biggest discrepancies we've had on the show. You have Hayden Hurst 9th this week. Erickson has him 27th. And at tight end, that is a massive gap. It would be a big gap anywhere, but that is a really wide gap. By the way, Ferguson is getting most of the vote in Ferguson versus Hurst. So Erickson, why are you so much lower on Hurst than DBro is?
Well, as the resident number 2 ranked ranker at tight end so far through 2 weeks, Ferguson has way more touchdown upside, in my opinion.
That man just bet Ferguson to get the first touchdown. That's all he's doing.
And
that's all it is. He just hit the bet, and he's staying with Ferg Daddy. That's all it is.
And the Cardinals have been one of these tight end funnel defenses.
That's fair.
Not good against tight ends. So I like Ferguson. And just like with tight end, you just got to follow the scores, because if you score a touchdown, you're automatically going to be a top 10 tight end.
So you think Carolina's not going to score?
I mean, why would they?
I know,
What have they
fair.
shown through 2 weeks? What have they shown that's like, oh, this offense is going to put up some points this week? That's the only reason why I don't think.
Seattle secondary cures everything that ails you.
Okay.
We'll see.
Erickson, must start quarterback, tight end, and defense.
I don't think I've answered more questions about a quarterback this week on Discord than Justin Fields. I'm starting him. If I have a quarterback, I'm just like, people are jumping off the band, but people are panicked and afraid, and they're like, I can't start this guy. Should I start Jared Goff over Justin Fields? Should I start insert pocket passer here? And I'm like, no, you can't do this. Justin Fields has scored more fantasy points this year than Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, and Dak Prescott. Are you benching any of those guys? No. Like, the guy still scored 16 points per game. Like, he's not out here scoring sub 10 points and killing your team. This is Justin Fields' floor, okay? This is his floor that he's had over the last 2 weeks. He didn't run at all last week. He scored a rushing touchdown, but he had a career, or not a career low, but really low outlier performance when it came to rushing. 3 yards on 4 carries. And in the news, if you've been paying attention, it's all about he's feeling robotic. They're putting him in position not to be a pocket passer, etc. And he's talked about how he needs to play more of his game this week against the Chiefs. What do you think that means? He's going to run the ball. Like, he's going to use his legs, because that's one of his best gifts and one of his best talents and strengths as a quarterback. He's going to run. They're going to be down by a ton of points. He's going to be scrambling, trying to pick up yards and keep them in the game. Keep it competitive. So don't give up on Justin Fields because you drafted him for his legs. Okay, I understand, like, if someone had a question about, I'm playing in a point per completion league. Like, should I bench Fields? Like, probably. If you're going to lose negative points, then yeah, like, I'm not sure why you drafted him in the first place in that format. But in normal formats where rushing is king, you got to go back to Justin Fields. I felt strong about this with Daniel Jones last week. People were writing Daniel Jones off. I'm like, guys, it's a running quarterback. They overcome when they don't play well as a passer. And it's going to happen this week with Justin Fields. So I know I said to bench all Bears players, basically. I'm not benching Justin Fields this week because he's going to run. And you're going to regret that. You're going to regret benching a guy with a ceiling as high as Justin Fields. We see this last year. He had slow start to the year. And then what happened? He unleashed the legs and was a top fantasy scoring quarterback. It's going to be the exact same thing. So Justin Fields, for me, I think you need to start him. As for tight end, Cade Otton for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He played 97% of the snaps for the second straight week. He actually led all Buccaneers players in routes run in week 2. Caught all 6 of his targets for 41 yards. He's playing the Eagles. Eagles get shredded over the middle of the field. So, again, I don't think it's going to be a big game for Mike Evans. I expect it to be a Chris Godwin game and a Cade Otton game. So, if you need a streamer this week, I think Cade Otton is one of my favorite guys that you can stream, pick up off the waiver wire for some solid production. And then my must-start DST. Again, maybe I'm hedging a little bit here, but Kansas City Chiefs. Look, I think that Fields is going to run, but he's also going to take a lot of sacks. So that's going to be part of it. Luckily, sacks don't count for his negative yardage. It's just the team's negative yardage. So, yeah, if you want to hedge a little bit, someone actually asked this too. Should I start Fields and the Chiefs DST? And I'm like, why not? I
think yes. Yes. Chiefs DST is like one of the most obvious streamers.
And they also play the Jets next week too. Yeah. So.
So who should I start? In the tool, you actually can do more than just a one-on-one. You can go up to 4 players. So I actually did 3 quarterbacks here. Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, or Justin Fields. Erickson.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm starting Justin Fields. If I drafted Justin Fields, then I'm starting him. So I'm not sure if there's a scenario where you have all those guys on your roster.
Where do you have Justin Fields ranked right now?
I think it's possible that you have.
I'm curious.
He has Fields ranked 5th, and I think it's possible that you would have Fields in one of these guys if you were just trying to hedge against, running quarterback maybe gets hurt. Like, you would take your second QB maybe a little earlier. DBro, what about you? Tua, Kirk, or Fields?
I'm just because I've got them all like back to back. Like, I've got Kirk. It's literally Kirk, Tua, and Fields in my ranks. So I would go with Kirk or Tua. I still have Fields top 10.
Tua is getting the bulk of the vote here, 63%, Kirk 33%, and then Fields all the way down at 3. People are not happy with what they've seen the first 2 weeks.
I guess I would say if you're really worried and you just don't want to take any risks, then you should probably play one of the pocket passers. Like, they both have good matchups, so I don't dissuade anybody. But my concern is people are dropping Justin Fields to pick up Jordan Love, and Derek Carr, and starting these guys. Like, that's the panic level with Justin Fields. So if you have a stud pocket passer, If you want to see it from Fields first, fine. I'm fine with that. But if you want actual upside, don't go to the waiver wire. Just play Justin Fields.
Yeah, if you drafted an early QB2 because you drafted Fields as your QB1, then I think it's reasonable to start them. But you should not be dropping Justin Fields. That would be a huge mistake.
2 weeks in.
Yeah,
Can we also understand that we've seen
mistake.
2 games, people? Overreactions. Yeah. Stop it. Don't do that.
We'll wrap it up on that. Please, everybody, be sure to check out DraftKings Sportsbook. Also use the Start Sit Assistant and all the cool tools we have at fantasypros.com/myplaybook. For Erickson and DBro, I'm Ryan Wormeli. We'll see you guys again next time.